Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
Jacob ran into Michael as he took the field for a warm-up. As they were standing next to each other, it was hard not to draw comparisons. Anyone could tell that Jacob's sportswear was from a local shop and wasn't branded. Although it looked just fine, there were some frayed edges. Its quality wasn't as great as Michael's branded jersey, which had a charm on its own. The fabric looked even better under the sun as its prints and labels got highlighted. Michael was wearing a pair of fancy long-distance running shoes, whereas Jacob, on the other hand, was wearing a common pair of sneakers. Michael snorted in derision after seeing how poor his outfit was. Jacob, however, refused to indulge in his futile ego battle and ran over to the track. "Sophomore," Michael said as Jacob was passing by, "I hope you're ready for your last place in the race." Jacob was about to ignore him again, but decided against it. He turned around and said, "We'll see who comes in at the last spot. The name is Jacob, by the way." Michael sneered and leaned over to whisper in his ear, "I'll beat you in front of the entire college." He was being arrogant and boastful. He waved once again to the girls cheering him on and showed off in front of Jacob. Kathy saw Michael talking to Jacob and wondered, since when did these two become good friends? Jacob wasn't expecting to come first in this race anyway, but he wanted to try his best as Kathy had encouraged him and he didn't want to let her down. He did not want to waste his energy arguing with Michael or caring about his branded clothes or popularity. "What, has the cat got your tongue, sophomore?" Michael tried to provoke him and proceeded to show off by doing a split. It made the girls on the spectator stand scream and cheer loudly. Jacob ran quietly to the track with his fists tightly clenched. Does he really think that the college runs on his charms? Jacob turned around to look at him, and he was once again stretching in front of the girls. Jacob rolled his eyes and began to focus on his warm-up. Girls kept going crazy every time Michael came close to their stand during his practice. His good looks, brawny build, charming smile, and his expensive sportswear made them giddy. Each one of them wanted Michael to notice them and would scream to catch his attention. On the other hand, Jacob was just another nobody to them who would never be as popular as Michael. He did not have the looks, the charisma, or the money to match up to him. Jacob turned around to look at Kathy and his classmates for inspiration. They were the only ones looking in his direction. They didn't care about his unimpressive clothes and old sneakers. They just wanted him to do his best. He smiled and decided to give this race his all. He found a quiet corner on the side of the track, away from Michael and his fangirls, and started warming up. He practiced short sprints on the running track. It was a sunny day, and it made him sweaty in just a few laps. He returned to the stands after feeling completely warmed up and reached up to where his classmates were sitting. Kathy had finished taking the attendance a while back and was more or less done with her class president duties for now. She smiled as she saw Jacob returning to the stands. Everyone had taken their seats. "Jacob!" Kathy waved her slender arm when she saw him coming over. Jacob walked over, and Kathy pointed at the empty seat near her. "Come sit here." Jacob wasn't surprised at her gesture, but he had to resist the tempting offer. He searched for Sam and the other two of his roommates as he said to Kathy, "I'd better go sit with them." "They're sitting way at the back, and you have to go for your race later. It's inconvenient to go up and down like that." Kathy made up an excuse, as she wanted him to stay. Jacob had no arguments there. She did make sense. He saw his friends waving at him and giving him sly smiles, and he knew he's in for a whole night of mockery ahead of him. He sat down beside Kathy. This move completely startled Sam. "Jacob, the guy who shies away from women, who can't even muster up the courage to confess his crush, and is even reluctant to borrow notes from a female classmate, is sitting with Kathy." Just then, Kathy took out a handful of tissues from her handbag and wiped off the sweat from Jacob's forehead. She then offered him her bottle of water. "This is sensational! A front-page news! A breaking story on broadcast!" Sam shouted to get the attention of his group, who were busy passing nachos to each other. "Jacob's dating Kathy!" "What?" one of them cried out in surprise. He stopped eating his hot dog and looked at Jacob and Kathy, who were sitting together in the front row. His mouth fell open in surprise, just like Sam's a few seconds ago. It's fine. I can do it myself." Jacob was flattered and a little flustered as Kathy wiped his sweat for him. He hastily stopped her by holding her soft arm. The sudden interest Kathy was showing in him was making him uncomfortable. "It's okay. I don't mind. After all, you are the hero of our class, aren't you?" She winked. She handed over a fresh bottle of water to him. "Here, you need to keep hydrated. Keep this with you. I've got plenty to go around." Jacob's friends were seeing their every move, and strangely, Jacob could feel their eyes on them. "Jacob is really having some luck with women, huh?" Sam and others said to each other as they kept looking at Jacob and Kathy. "Don't be so nice to me, class president. I'm not used to this special treatment." Jacob chuckled and took the bottle from her and tried to keep the conversation light, though what he said was the truth. He was being honest due to nervousness. "I'm thinking, from now on, I will be extra nice to you," Kathy laughed. Jacob was stupefied by her smile, as he felt like his heart was about to pop out of his chest. "I was joking," Kathy added, after seeing Jacob looking at her that way. "Oh." He thought for a few seconds and said, "Hey, please don't be mad if I disappoint you today and end up coming last in the race." "You know what the biggest difference between you and the others here?" she asked rhetorically. "I know for sure that you will try your best." She looked straight at him as she said that, and Jacob saw the confidence in her eyes. Jacob smiled softly. "Oh, do you know Michael?" she suddenly asked. "Sort of," Jacob mumbled. He thought Kathy might be interested in someone as attractive and popular as Michael. She should probably be sitting with him, wiping his sweat, passing him the bottle of water, laughing at his jokes. Kathy broke his chain of thoughts and said, "He is kind of cute, and a lot of girls like him, but I think he's a show-off." Jacob felt a lot lighter after her answer. It was like she could read his mind. He eased up around Kathy as she continued talking about Michael. "His dad is the deputy mayor of the city. Did you know?" she said. "No wonder he's so arrogant. Is being the son of someone influential such a big deal? It's not like it's his achievement," Jacob replied. As he began talking to Kathy, he completely forgot about the number of envy-filled eyes that were staring at him and Kathy. She would tilt her head and laugh at Jacob's silly jokes from time to time, touching his arm and making it evident that she liked him a lot. Jacob was enjoying her company too. At least he was, till he began to turn pale all of a sudden. A blurry vision of a high school girl in a blue uniform was approaching him. As his vision became clearer, he knew who she was at once, and he froze. Only one name came out from his color-drained lips. "Sophie!"
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.
"Sophie?" Jacob's heart skipped a beat. He looked closely and tried to recognize the girl who had entered the sports field. As the entrance was far away, he couldn't see who the girl was, but going by the color and style of her uniform and the physique, she indeed looked a lot like Sophie. "What's the matter?" Kathy asked, as she noticed that Jacob had stopped talking and that he looked a bit strange. She got slightly worried that he might be sick. "Oh, it's nothing." Jacob turned around to look at her. Even though he resumed his conversation with Kathy, he kept glancing back to get a look at the girl in blue to confirm it wasn't Sophie. "Maybe it's someone's sister. She might have come to cheer for her brother or sister participating in the sports," he thought, or rather hoped. The students who were warming up went back to their classes one by one. Michael also returned to the spectator stand and sat down with the other competitors. Shortly after everyone had settled down, the dean of the college climbed up on the stage, stood at the podium, and began to give an inspiring speech. He encouraged the students to take part in sports with enthusiasm, to make the college proud, and to exercise regularly to stay healthy. The events of the college, including today's games, categorized the participation according to the subject majors instead of level of seniority. The first game was a 400-meter relay race. Participants from the management major, environmental chemical engineering major, mechatronic engineering major, and life science major all went onto the sports field. Jacob noticed that Michael, who was an international business administration major, also went up in his golden sportswear. The girls screamed as he stepped onto the track. He waved at them like a celebrity before standing at his designated spot. At that moment, Jacob took a second and glimpsed over at the entrance where the girl in the blue uniform was standing. He was relieved as she was nowhere in sight. Whoever she was, she probably found the matches boring and left. All 8 participants stood in their positions on the track. The participants bolted ahead following the sound of the starting pistol. A thunder of claps echoed in the field, and the athletes ran like bullets leaving a gun. "They are all so fast," Kathy sighed in awe. Soon, 3 relays were completed, and none of the majors had missed the passes. The relay batons were handed over to their last contestants. Jacob focused his attention on Michael because he subconsciously regarded this man as his competition in the 1,500-meter race. The student representing the International Business Administration major was in second place when the baton was in the third runner's hand. He was almost 5 meters behind the student from the mechatronic engineering major. However, Michael came from behind and chased after the runner after he received the relay baton. It was almost impossible to make up for those 5 meters within a 100-meter distance. The noisy spectator stand suddenly went quiet as the crowd held their breaths and were completely focused on the race. Even Kathy was concentrating on the race, and she stood up lightly. 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. Jacob opened his eyes wide in surprise. Michael was running like a rocket on the track. The girls' cheering turned into screaming as Michael ran like a bolt of lightning. Sam and his group were also engrossed and were watching the relay race in astonishment. 2 meters, 1 meter. They were in a tie. "Michael!" The screams of his name filled up the entire sports field. Michael ran across the finish line and was half a step faster with the relay baton in his hand. He lifted the baton up high and waved at the audience, showing a winner's stance. "Michael! Michael!" Everyone chanted his name rhythmically. Michael was immersed in the happiness of victory. He shook his head as sweat dripped off his black hair. There was pride and satisfaction on his face. "No wonder he's the president of the rock climbing club," Kathy sighed as she looked towards the finish line. "Do you like him?" Jacob asked. Kathy shook her head. "No, I just think he is pretty cool. His grades are good, and he looks good. He even excels in sports. No wonder he is the Prince Charming, the dreamboat for every girl in college, and he comes from a rich, influential family. That should also count, right?" Jacob added. Kathy turned around to look at him and smiled a little. "Are you jealous? I'm racing with him in the 1,500-meter race this afternoon. Will you be cheering for me or him?" Jacob asked plainly. "Of course I'm going to be cheering for you," Kathy answered without thinking. Jacob simply nodded. "Hey, what's on your mind? Is something bothering you?" Kathy asked as she saw his displeased expression. "Nothing. I thought you were one of his fans, too," Jacob said lightly. "I am not a fan. I'm not even interested in him," she answered. The cheering of the crowd began to fade as the second game started. Michael took his time to return to his seat, and when he did, he looked in Jacob's direction and nodded at him with a smirk on his face. "Is that a warning?" Jacob wondered angrily. He began to calm himself down, not letting Michael influence his mood. The second event was the 110-meter hurdle race. As people got immersed in the event, Jacob tried to clear his head and began focusing on the race. "Here you go." Kathy opened up a bottle of water and handed it to Jacob. "You need to replenish your stamina for the race this afternoon," she said. Jacob smiled and took the water. He began talking to Kathy again and felt a lot better than before. Jacob's friends were a bit jealous, looking at the kind of attention Kathy was giving Jacob. They were kicking themselves for not taking part in the race. It could have just as easily been one of them next to Kathy instead of Jacob. Little did they know that Kathy had begun liking Jacob way before the race. As much as Jacob was enjoying Kathy's company, he had a nagging feeling in his stomach. He felt restless, and just as he was trying to understand why, a crispy and melodious voice called out to him. "Hey," said the familiar voice, and Jacob stumbled and almost lost his balance as he tried to get up from his seat. He somehow found his balance and turned around to find Sophie standing in front of him with a smile on her face. Hey, oh my God, Sophie, you're here." Jacob was surprised and was being extra loud owing to his nervousness. Here he was sitting with Kathy, and though he wasn't really flirting with her, there was a vibe between them. Now that Sophie was here, the nagging feeling in his stomach finally made sense. He knew, deep down, that he wasn't really supposed to be getting even remotely involved with another girl. Jacob walked towards Sophie and asked, "What a surprise! How did you manage to come down? Don't you have school?" "I skipped school," Sophie said nonchalantly. Jacob was speechless. He opened his mouth to say something, but sealed it shut. There was an awkward silence between them, as Jacob neither said anything nor did he ask Sophie to sit with him. She tried to break the silence and asked, "So, who's your friend?" Jacob looked at her and saw that she was asking about Kathy. He nervously introduced the two of them. "Yes, of course, Kathy. She's our class president, and Kathy, this is Sophie. She's I know her from, she's an old friend." He could barely form the words. Using the word girlfriend would break Kathy's heart. Calling Sophie his fiancée would grab eyeballs, and he didn't know what else to say. Introducing Sophie as a friend seemed the safest answer. "Well, old friends, huh? Hi, Sophie. It's so nice to meet you. Your friend is so cute, Jacob," said Kathy. Sophie smiled weakly at her. She took the word cute as Kathy's way of calling her a young girl. "You're cute too, and you look good with Jacob," replied Sophie. Jacob gulped in nervousness. Just now when you were both sitting and talking, you looked just like siblings. Ha ha." Sophie said this in such a sincere tone that Kathy had no words. She was fuming from the inside. Sophie seemed pleased with herself. While the two girls were glaring at each other, a guy, who was sitting at the top of the spectator stand, poked Sam and pointed at Jacob. "Damn, it's that girl from last time. Jacob is in big trouble." Sam frowned as he recognized Sophie as the one who waited for Jacob at the cafeteria and caused a big scene on the campus. "Want to go and check it out?" The guy seemed genuinely concerned. "Check out what? That girl is so hard to deal with. I wouldn't be able to say anything to her, could you?" "Then what should we do?" He stared at Sam. Sam looked at him and said, "Oh, forget it. Jacob needs to learn how to deal with women sooner or later. Let him live and learn." Jacob stood nervously between Kathy and Sophie, who were looking at each other and not saying anything. Finally, Kathy was about to say something to her when Jacob said, "Why are we all standing? Let's all sit." Jacob sat between them and began to stare at the field. Both women were sitting with their arms crossed in front of them. Jacob was in big, big trouble. For a fleeting moment, he wished he was sitting on a seat of thorns rather than between the two of them.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.
Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.